Welcome, everyone. This is the Should I Start podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about innovators, creatives, and business owners for global listeners. The show is about the creative process that many artists, business, men and women employ when creating their works. You'll hear from musicians, producers, poets, photographers, innovators, business owners, and more. Please subscribe to our season and enjoy. Do you believe that the professional aesthetic dictates that the bigger the camera, the more professional you are?
It's a perception. It's a perception play, especially if you're doing an event. You can't really pull out like a compact camera. They're like, who's this guy with the little thing?
Any funny stories with that?
No, I mean, I've always had the bigger camera, so I'm just saying. But it's cool, especially when you have the flash on there, the grip and everything. And then, if you're using like a 50, 1.2 or a 2470, it just makes this thing like massive. And I think it's excessive, but it does apply for certain events. When I'm shooting a lot more celebrities now, so it does kind of help with that percent because some of them are old school. They just like, okay, photographer, big camera, they get used to that. So I have to kind of give them that still. Pays the bills.
Yeah, man.
Kills my hand though.
Why get a gym membership?
There we go. It's like, yo, this must be your strong arm, Tito. Mercy.
Yeah. I do my f-stops, I do my ISOs. Yeah. And it's like a Rubik's Cube too. So you're lifting weights and doing a Rubik's Cube.
All on one hand, mostly. This one is like your stabilizer, your support. And then everything else is, shutter, aperture, ISO. So I'm over here throwing gang style, Black Rambo style,
Black voodoo. Just like,
pretty much.
Amazing photos are going to come out.
Exactly. They're just like, yo, I didn't even see the photo yet, but I love it.
using the secret.
That's it. The secret, man. That's a funny story itself, man. I don't believe in that stuff, but I don't believe that, you wake up one day, you're on the freaking couch and be like, I want to be a millionaire. And just because you thought of it, it's going to happen. Nah, it comes from a lot of work. You can't just jack off and be like, yo, I'm going to be great. No, you got to put in the work. You got to. There's no way. Even if people kind of deceive you and believing like, oh, yeah, one day I just did this and then now I'm here. No, it comes years and years of work. I told you I started in middle school. And even before that, I was studying. I was intrigued by what I wanted to do. So this is like a lifelong effort to get to where I'm at here. And I think a lot of creatives need to know that. It's just not, you can't just jump on YouTube, watch a couple of videos, and then, yeah, you could practice, you could experiment. But as far as developing your craft, that takes a little time, man. That's oven work right there, not microwave.
Damn. Giving me cooking gems right now.
There you go.
I feel like I'm in front of
we
Aunt
cooking
Jemima.
It up, man. we cooking and shooting.
Are you related to Aunt Jemima?
No, but great stuff.
Okay, but so we emphasize that you are a creative, a photographer.
Yeah.
Now you have evolved into a different creative field or a different plane. I mean, not to put you in a bottle or anything like that, but what would you call yourself?
That's something that I struggle with heavily because for a long time, it's like I have so much interest, I have so many different talents, and, I've kind of like not appreciated the thought that I was a jack of all trades. This is something that I just don't feel like I am. I just feel that I'm a creative, period. Sometimes I do film, sometimes I do photos, sometimes dabbling in design, heavily in design. I love design. And then also architecture, interior design, all that stuff kind of influences me and what I do. So I was just sitting there and, me and Tams are partners now, and he's just like, you know what? You can't call yourself like a visual artist, and that's what I was calling myself for a long time. You're not just a photographer, you're not a designer, and he just said you're a conceptual artist, and I was like, yo, that's dope. Conceptual artist is what I do because like I'm creating something from scratch. There's a lot of storytelling into it, and I'm bringing what's in my head to life. And I think that's I'm a conceptual artist. That's all I can say.
Do you feel like the answers to your questions come from people on the outside looking in instead of the inside looking out?
Like, your thoughts are not your own. You're always kind of like influenced by something else to make you think that, this is my idea. I think I started listening a little bit more. I'm not so arrogant anymore as I used to be. And I'm naturally a people pleaser, so me trying to now become more of a experienced and seasoned artist. I care about that, and I listen to people, and especially people that are credible, not just anybody off the street. People that are in my industry that see me, that have my best intentions. That's the ones I kind of have my ear to.
Okay.
I think that's what most creatives should do, is not just get so sensitive or butthurt when someone says, "Oh, this is crap," or "This is whatever." Who are they? You know what I'm saying? They didn't do it. Sometimes even if you're doing something wrong, like, your ISO is too high, your shutter stock, it's not good. You should always just kind of, focus on your craft, and it's always better to shoot and do what you do instead of listening to someone that doesn't do it at all and just kind of curates and critiques what you're doing. Like, that doesn't make any sense. You messed me up, by the way, just going there. I was like, I was flowing. God.
So there's a difference between critiques from a customer and opinions. What would you define as a critique, and what would you define as an opinion? Because not everyone has, valuable verses of gold that they can instill in other people. And especially if they aren't creatives, they don't understand that process, that you have to think of color psychology, how it's going to be implied, because you're a conceptual artist.
Yeah, I mean, critique to me is someone that is in your industry, that is a senior to you, and they're like, you know what, this is pretty good. This is what I would have done differently. They just kind of give you constructive criticism. An opinion is anybody could have an opinion, seasoned or not. Just like, you know what, that just didn't resonate with me as much, or it didn't make me feel that great, or it just looked off to me. I mean, those are opinions. You can have those opinions. The critique to me from someone that's credible is always going to weigh more. That's it. I mean, as a conceptual artist, it doesn't really matter if I create something from scratch. It doesn't matter if you have someone critiquing or giving an opinion. This is something from you. This is a feeling that you had. It's something that was in your mind that you brought to life. So if you're happy with it, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Do you feel that your artistry, you've given too much to someone else after creating such a passionate piece of art, and they're just like, they don't understand it? And then it's just like, your ability to listen has evolved? I don't know where I was going with that question. So
I don't know. It's fine. I mean, I think I get what you're saying, but I'm not as abstract. So a lot of things that I do, people can easily understand. It's kind of straightforward. Like, we talk about educating, we're talking about our creative, craft, translating our, I guess, what we don't like about it, or our experiences, or good or bad, to someone else. I feel like that's a little bit straightforward. You could do it in an abstract way, but I think the message is always, the goal is to be as clear as possible. Like, I'm creating a book now called A Heart's Memory. It's been in the works for 2 years, and it's been something that I've been debating a lot, going back and forth a lot, because, it is all nude art. I come from a very, religious background, in some cases, very conservative, and, I do believe your reputation and how people perceive you is very, very important. My dad always told me, it's like, it's not the act, but it's what people think you're doing. That's has a little bit more weight to it. But at this point, being in weddings, doing the events, doing celeb work. I mean, all different types of events. I'm just like, you know what, this is something that I'm gonna do for me. This is something that weighs hard on my heart. You know, I definitely love nude art, and I've shied away from putting it on Instagram as much because, you know, they're not mature enough to handle it. Instagram is just like, you know, everyone's shooting a nude girl or whatever. So I try to put my things on a website or do an art gallery, which I've done, to kind of put things into, you know, a better context where people can appreciate it more. So A Heart's Memory is really, really close to my heart because half of it is done by, well, the writing is done by my good friend, 23 years. His name was Eli, and he's doing all the poems there. He's really great. And then I was gonna supply all the visuals, kind of like a story about my relationship roller coaster with women, period. Okay. And a lot of things that me and Eli were discussing and the experiences that we were kind of aligning. So he wrote all his feelings, and I shot all my feelings.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's what it was. So I try to get a lot of the interesting shots with, you know, with my muses being women.
Okay.
And I always thought the naked body was art in itself. You know, I've always tried to shoot where it's more interesting versus just like, oh, it's a naked woman. You know, I feel like the best photos are the ones that you don't even realize someone's naked in. So the one that really got hit with Madi Powell, my iconic shot that everyone, you know, it was in art galleries and publications and all that, of her falling into the water. They didn't even realize she was like naked. It was just like, yo, I just love the shot. They knew she was naked, but it was not like, wow, why her tits and everything's out, her booty's. No, it's not like that. It was just, I want people to be more respectful of the photo, you know, and well, not really respectful, but appreciate it from that regard. Okay. So that's what Our Heart's Memory is about. It's going to be having a lot more shots like that, and then the context is from the writing.
Okay.
But he died, and that's why I really have to finish it.
See, I was waiting for the punchline.
Yeah, he died in July.
Damn.
It was a car accident. Not sure what happened, how he was just gone. So I have to finish it now.
Okay, you will finish it.
Yeah, I will.
Because the viewers at the time of watching this,
they're gonna expect something.
Hold your ass accountable.
Something, but no, yeah, I'm gonna drop it on his 30th birthday. He would have been 30 March 20th. So that's the date that I'm gonna drop the book.
On his birthday. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's deep. So, what's your philosophy on creativity? If you had to summarize
it. It's self-expression, you know. I mean, it's more self-expression to me. I was gonna say it's no right or wrong, and I think there isn't, but it depends on how you present it, you know, how you deploy it. I think that could be a right or wrong. Just like I said, hey, you know, I'm gonna scale back on Instagram because, you know, that's where the perverts are, and, you know, I just don't want to be associated, oh, that's the guy that shoots nude girls, you know. So try to package it in a different way and deploy it in different ways where, you know, hey, he takes this very seriously. It is a way to connect with people as well, you know. I think that's one of the many ways we could communicate, you know, and I think that's one of a visual way, one of that's really more receptive, you know, one I lean to more.
Okay.
Visuals.
Nice. And now you're kind of giving some feedback about presentation, social media, galleries.
Yep. Each one has different rules.
Each one has different rules.
Yep.
But what is your main squeeze?
My main squeeze.
You gotta keep it funny.
Coming up with these words. Main squeeze.
1970s, man.
Right now, listen, I'm not big on Instagram. I'm not huge on social media that much, even though it's my job. So every day I do have X amount of clients that I have to fulfill social media needs too.
Okay.
So I'm constantly in it, but as for me personally as an artist, not that much. Instagram's weak, you know. I'm always tearing it down because I'm developing myself as well, especially my brand. And I was never really happy. I'm not one to just be like, oh, this is working, I'm gonna keep going. If I'm not feeling it, I gotta drop it down. But to answer your question, YouTube right now is first. That's where I connect with the rest of the world. I have a curated list of people I subscribe to, and I learn a lot of things from. Pinterest is my next one. Pinterest, I just literally like one big mood board for me, you know. I categorize it, and I have the most following on Pinterest, which is crazy. And I've had it for, you know, I've never breaking it down for like almost 5 years now, which is crazy too. And then comes Instagram. Instagram, I'm actually using more as like a secondary email. The DMs, man, people be jumping into DMs, and you know, vice versa. And that's where a lot of, you know, I meet a lot of different models. Like, hey, I love your, I see this photo. I want to do this. I want to do that. Okay, let's do it. And I think that's where a lot of that happens. Or, you know, other businesses reach out, it's like, hey, listen, you know, I heard this, I see this. Can you do something like this for me? So it's kind of like, you know, my little order taker, you know. It's like, okay, yeah, we got this. I'll fix problems in that regard.
What have you learned about yourself through your passion?
Yeah, I figured out that, hey, you cannot put me in a certain genre or in a certain bottle. Like I'm more than a photographer. I'm just a creative person, period. Something that stands out to me mostly is what my mom told me. I used to struggle with this a lot. And I was like, yo, I have all these skills. I have all these different interests. And she kind of brought it all together for me. And she said, hey, Tito, how many legs does a dog have? I said, 4. He said, how many paths can it walk? I said, 1. Damn. So even though you have so many interests and so many talents, where are you heading? You can't go in every other direction. So I was like, okay. So for me, you know, I'm not just a photographer. I'm a conceptual artist. We brought that all together. But my goal is to educate. My goal is to share my art with the world, to, you know, send my story, my message out there. So that gives me something direct to aim for versus I'm just creating just to create. And a lot of times when photographers ask me, or they, you know, jump in my DM, especially some new ones, they just want to create dope stuff. Okay, what is dope stuff? You know, sometimes they just get influenced by other photographers, be like, well, I want to do what they're doing. That doesn't say, I mean, that's going to fade. That's just, now you're treating it as like a trend. Those are the same people. That's why photography is not valued as high as it used to be, in video is not as valued, because everyone just wants to do it, and technology has made people capable of doing it. So now you have all these artists and creatives, and they're just creating, but they never soul search and be like, yo, is this who I am, or this is what I want to do? No, they just want to impress a girl. They want to just shoot nude girls because they can, because they have the camera. The camera gives you that power. But they shouldn't. Do you really want to do it? Anyone can learn anything. But the people that really, really want to do it sometimes get cut and sometimes get, you know, not seen because of these other individuals. You know, they saturate in the market. They're just doing it just because, which no real love for it. They just want to do it. So, yeah.
I think that's a double-edged sword. I think at that point, because I can discuss about my upcomings as a photographer and how you seen my work. You see my website, my presentation. At times you see how I execute during the event photography. Sometimes we don't start off with shooting portraits or shooting models. We shoot people that are in our immediate environment. You grew up with photography. My father took photos. My brother is an amazing photographer. He took photos. I didn't like photography growing up.
Right.
But then again, though, I had a lot of difficult and different jobs and obstacles. And I realized that if I happen to do one thing for the rest of my life, the field that has provided me the most growth and diversification is photography, video, and graphic design. Now I see the landscape of how photographers interact within each other. There's so many photographers. How do I price this? How do I go about this? How do I separate myself and become more business professional? You've already established that. Some people have to work for it. Who do you work with now in your endeavors?
I mean, you just said a lot of things that was pretty much loaded, and I'm just, don't get me wrong, I want to speak about the people that, you know, they're just doing it just to do it, you know, and a lot of, like, for instance, like you say, you push through a lot of different events. You're versatile in photography, you know, you have a little bit of influence from your family members and whatnot, but yeah, I mean, other people, they don't have that, and you saw that, hey, listen, I want to push through this. So why didn't you want to be a photographer at first, and why did you do it and are still doing it now? That's my question. Maybe that will help the listeners more, and then I can answer a little bit better too.
Okay. The reason why I'm doing this podcast. Who's doing it?
You're doing it.
Exactly. So if I wanted to jump into photography, how many photographers would they be? A lot. If I wanted to jump in the video, the number cuts down. Now, from my previous experiences, I extend and go further, and I rather do a podcast. The accumulation of things that I've learned have brought me to this point in my creativity.
Got it. Which is beautiful. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people's like, you know, I'm sticking to it because it's doing this for me, but they don't really want to do it. You know, obviously had influence from your peoples. You started doing it, and now you've seen another opportunity, something that you align with a little bit better. A lot of people don't do that, and that's the same thing with me. It's like, you know what? I was all over the place, and I realized my mom's like, yo, you got to bring it close. What do you really want to do with it? And the same thing now, you want to highlight other creatives because that builds value for a lot of your listeners. So that is great. Now you're walking one path, but you're using a lot of different of your experiences and interests and talents. You have a photo side, you have a video side, design side. Now you're doing the audio visual, podcast. Like, that's growth, that's development, you know. And that's beautiful. I wish more people would do that, you know, and instead of just like, you know, I just think it's cool. You can't do it because it's just cool. Then it's just a hobby. Then, you know, realize it's just a hobby, you know, and be just a freelancer. You know, a lot of people are taking jobs from other people because it's cool. It's whatever.
I don't know.
I think you're robbing yourself too. You know.
Break it down. How am I robbing myself?
No, I'm saying people are robbing themselves if they're just doing things just because. I think that's what the issue is. Let there be light.
It's a disgusting color, but you know what? You're worth it.
It's worth it. Appreciate it.
I'll tint it.
Listen, we've talked so much. We having a good conversation.
Oh, wait,
we're talking so much. The sun done left.
And it never snows here. So we can
left. This is Miami, boy.
Yeah. This is timeless. So let's go into a rapid fire. It's 7:03.
It's fine.
Okay, I'm just going to go into a rapid fire. And thank you so much for the kind acknowledgement of diversity.
Yeah, you got to, you know.
I just fight through it. That's the truth. You just fight through it.
But
sometimes I don't want to create, I don't want to design, but the thing is just that what are the things that I can do now that can open up other opportunities? And ultimately for me is, how do you make that person feel? Because at the end of the day, we can do a podcast. At the end of the day, you can do a photo shoot. At the end of the day, you can do a graphic design project. But it depends on how that person feels. But a lot of artists are very not sensitive, but they're more open with their emotions when it comes to, like I said, criticism, feedback, and you've already touched upon it. Yeah, so it's like
I'm super sensitive.
Sometimes we need to distinguish whose words are really important to us. So I heard you gave a shout out to Tams.
Yeah, that's what I work for.
Work with,
whatever whatever it is.
That's what
He's
you
doing-
wrote.
listen,
That's what you wrote. Work with. That's what you wrote.
I
I'm
mean-
gonna have to double check you on your notes right now. So.
No, it's cool. I mean, yeah. He gave me a chance. I was discovered.
How did he discover you?
He didn't actually discover me. It was I worked with one of his employees at the time. I did a gig at the Hard Rock, and it was for like a technology event, and I captured it with my boy John, and one of his production guys were there, and he was like, yo, we're looking for someone else, at our agency. I was like, yo, I gave him my number and everything. We swapped information, and he was just like, okay, I'll hit you up. A couple of weeks went by. He was like, yo, he called me. He was like, yo, and at the time I wasn't doing so well. I was, I just got fired from. I don't want to say that.
You don't have to. You don't have to. Like just.
Anyway, so yeah, I met one of his employees at the technology event, and he's like, "Yo, let's work." And he told Tams about it. I came in for an interview, and we were chopping it up. And he was like, "Yo, my people think you're a right fit, and this and that and the third." And we just got into small talk, and it was like a big open discussion. It was not something that was just me and him. And all of a sudden, Tams just stopped. He was like, "Are we hiring this motherfucker or not?"
Sounds like a character.
That was great. And then since then, he pulled me to the side. He's like, "So how much you want? How much you gonna cost me? The checks are gonna come in on time. But what you gonna do for me?" I was like, "I can start right now. Let's go." And that was a good relationship since then. He was 100% transparent. If you ask him the right questions, and then I was 100% transparent in our effort. We always wanted the same thing. We wanted to keep our clients happy and create dope shit. So that's what we kind of did. And since then, it's evolved. Promotions, and now he wants me to become a partner, and I accept it. So we work together in that regard now. So
yeah, congratulations.
appreciate you. Yeah,
Congratulations.
nice.
I don't have that in my life.
Man, you on a big mission right here, man. This is pretty good. Keep this going.
Nah, dude. Every small action leads to bigger
And here's the thing, yo. Philip back, he acts like he doesn't work with us, man. Sometimes he comes out, he shoots some events with us, which is great. So shout out to him on that, man. Definitely versatile, creative right here.
Yeah. Don't need to plug me in. I'm the one that's doing the podcast.
That's it, man. Gotta give props, man.
Where they're due. Okay. So I hope you guys love this video and the videos that I have been producing.
Let's go.
I love the people, I love the guests. If there's any feedback that you would like to give me, please let me know in the comments below.
Yes.
If you can please subscribe. If there's any way that I can improve on it, let me know. I would be glad to hear it. And I also want to know what's on your mind. This is an ongoing conversation.
Let's go.
I want to understand you guys more. I want to provide more value, more content for you.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that I can do, just please let me know. I'll gladly help out to the best of my abilities to provide you this content.
You're crushing it, bro. Let's go.
Bye.